welcome to another episode of Unscripted, which is, as usual, unscripted, impromptu, made up as we fucking go along, but as usual also slightly relevant to whatever the fuck we're doing. I need to remind you of all sorts of things like subscribe, like, press the weird bell so you get notifications. Follow us on all social medias, go visit our web shop and buy some loot and all that stuff. That's the formalities. Let's move on. Unimportant shit. We are here because this week Matt and I are tattooing, well, William, and I don't also known as Bill, and on social media as what?
Black Dog Black Works on the Instagram.
That's it. And you do nerdy shit.
I do all kinds of nerdy shit.
Yeah, I've noticed. We've talked about it. The moment you got here, we started talking about nerdy shit actually, and quickly realized that we share a love for R.K. Ferguson and Werewolf, and other such nonsense. And it's also actually a shame that we didn't manage to just film that conversation, because it very, very quickly went down some rabbit holes of intense nerdery. But here we are, cameras rolling. So, but I figured we should start by talking about what we're doing, because what we're doing is we are granting you your prize, because you won one of our 5-day ginormous fucking raffles, travel included and all these things. And while we're filming this, we have a raffle going on, so it felt relevant to film now and talk to you about this. But it also turned out that you were a fun nerd, so we might as well talk about nerdy shit too. I just need a thing. One moment. Stick. So, but yeah, you won.
I did.
Congratulations. You seem excited. Now that I'm drawing on your nipple, are you still excited?
It's worth it. Every bit of it's worth it.
Good. That's the right answer. That's not too high. So, have you participated in all of my raffles, or just the one that you won?
All of them.
All of them. And you persisted even though you didn't win until last time.
Yeah.
That's like the classic TV question. How did it make you feel when your name got pulled out of that?
It was a great for a camera. I actually started crying a little bit, and then I made 1 million phone calls and sent a bunch of texts to first my wife, and then family, and then my friends, because they all know that I've been a follower of your work for years, and sort of how much it means to me.
That's quite intimidating, to be honest, for me. But I'm
Sure.
flattered as well.
I think it's safe to say though that I'm moving so much. What you do is unique. Like, there are a lot of other people working in the same style, but no one does it the way that you do. And if I can speak a little on that, I would say it's
unscripted, so
yeah. I think it's part of your dedication to the forms, but also just it's you. You're also that unique component. Your personality, the way you think about these things, the way you approach these things. Yeah, it's like nothing else.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I try my best to make cool things. I mean, in all honesty, a lot of the tattoos I do is sort of a relief to me to like get the designs out of my fucking head, because they're like weird haunting ghosts. Like the weird ghosts of the Oseberg style, grappling weird ornamental genitalia. The other day, you followed me at least since I had Meat Shop in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about that. You might have come across me on DeviantArt at first. So that's a long fucking time ago. That's
Yeah.
at least 10 years, if not more.
Yeah.
Have you enjoyed the development? Or is there like, do you have like a reminiscence of some of my old work where you're like, oh, he should have stuck with that? Because I often think that maybe people are annoyed that I because I just roll with it and come up with shit all the time.
It's interesting. It's almost like music, where you have a band that puts out an album that you really, really love, and then as they put out more albums, they start to change. They might start to refine, but they might start to do differently. And you can either hold on to that first album really tight and insist that these super creative people never change and only do things the one way, or you can follow the evolution and you can appreciate where it's going. And I think it's definitely been that for me. I love seeing the way that you are developing new approaches. Yeah, new approaches. I think it's awesome, and I'm always looking forward to seeing what the next thing is that's coming out.
Good answer, considering you're about to get to 2 more.
Hell yeah!
I mean,
It's out with 1 L.
it would be really shit if you were like, I just really like the stuff that you made 6 years ago.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about your own creativity, because I'm curious about that part. Because you do some special, you actually dabble in the stuff that I used to do for a living,
Yeah, that's been wild.
which is really cool.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? How did you get into doing chopped off limbs and orc armors and shit like that? You LARP, you giant nerd.
I do. I'm a huge nerd. I've been LARPing for 20 years. Yeah, and I've always been crafty, so I've always done little bits of costuming. And then I started doing a combat LARP in the States, and very little role play. Really no role play outside of making up a character.
So like war game kind of thing.
Yeah, and dressing up as them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a whole group of friends, and we all went as barbarians, fantasy barbarians. So I started putting together outfits that I wanted to see. So I got these big leather war belts and skirts and all that. And I started constructing those myself, teaching myself how to sew leather. And that was kind of the stuff I see over in Europe.
Poisoning yourself with 2-component chemical bullshit.
You should see me, I'm all masked up. And
Good.
Yeah.
I have a lot of old colleagues back in Denmark who never wore the fucking masks.
Yeah.
They're weird now.
If you're listening and you do that stuff, wear your masks.
Yes, always.
100%.
It's not a fucking joke. If it's 2-component or 3-component things, it's also toxic.
Absolutely.
And if it expands when it touches air, don't breathe it. Okay, so you got into that, and through LARPing and nerding, and you've been playing around with it. You have a little web shop kind of thing going on at Etsy that you have on hiatus right now, because the American market is weird. We talked about that. Where do you want to go with it? Because for a living, you have the most creative job in human history. What do you do for a living, Bill?
I install flooring. I do carpet and vinyl plank and those sorts of things. Generally, my other job though is creative director of a small publishing company that makes role-playing game books.
See, that is cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, because we not made it to that part yet.
Yeah. Called Superhero Necromancer Press.
Superhero Necromancer Press?
Yes.
Okay, it's a mouthful, but it's very catchy.
If you were, I think in one of the earlier editions of Dungeons and Dragons, if you were a 9th level elf, you were a superhero necromancer.
What the fuck?
Because each level has a title.
Yeah, yeah.
And because elves could do both fighting and magic, they got 2. So.
Oh, the good old D&D bullshit weirdness. Not that it's gotten less weird as time goes by. Do you still play D&D? Do you still sit around the table playing D&D and World of Darkness and all these things?
I do, every Friday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I have the weird experience of doing it with multiple PhD holders for Dungeons and Dragons, and that's interesting.
Yeah, I used to play I used to play D&D online with some mates and World of Warcraft with the same people.
Yeah.
And one of them, while we were playing, he would be sitting in the sound research facility under the mountains in Switzerland, pressing buttons and examining cosmic radiation while we were like roaming around Unguru Crater in World of Warcraft. Very weird. It seems like our generation grew up and got real jobs and PhDs and shit like that all of a sudden. It's weird. It's cool, but that's a lot of evolution that happened.
Sure.
There's also, I think it's one of those things that has made tattooing more interesting and building special effects more interesting, painting fantasy paintings and all these things. Like the people who were into it as kids, a lot of them stayed interested and now have real jobs and money, so they're willing to pay for having the good shit. I remember when I was younger, you could buy original paintings from fantasy artists for cheap because they had no one to sell to, and now these artists actually get paid, which is fucking phenomenal because they deserve to get paid.
100%.
But it's just a very, very big difference to 20 years ago. So yeah, that's nice. So are you aiming to like kick off with the whole special effects thing, or is it just a hobby?
I would love to keep making props. I'd like to get deeper into it, expand the things I'm able to produce. We talked a few days ago about masks.
Yep.
I'd love to at some point be putting out masks or prosthetics. I'd like to be doing weapons. So I just started doing weapons, and I'm doing crude looking weapons, orc style weapons, where I'm combining some of the bones that I'm casting with the weapons themselves.
Nice.
So you got a weird sword that looks like it's crudely carved out of bone with a piece of spine down the back of it. Yeah. Things like that.
Shit like that. Back when I did special effects, a lot of it was for LARP, and it was always fun to do like long, elegant blades for elves and shit like that. But the fun shit was always like make a hammer for a troll or a battle sword for an orc and shit like that, because it was just gritty and dark and fucked up. I remember we made like this massive obsidian hammer once. It wasn't for anything particular, we just made it because it was fucking cool. So it was crude and dark and fucking evil to look at, and then when you look closely at it, you could see like the main shape of the hammerhead was actually a ram's head, but really roughly made. Shit like that, it really makes me happy. And it's okay, while you're working on it, it's okay to fuck up a little bit and cut off the wrong piece of foam and shit like that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you just, yeah, that was fun. I'm a bit jealous because I really miss doing all these things. Like, I get to be creative every day, but I miss sculpting and building weird shit. But no one's willing to pay me my hourly rates to make troll costumes anymore. Bit sad. So yeah. Right, so
Massive wolf coursing across my body, but bearing I don't know which camera's here, bearing a sword and shield like the wolves from the Lundstone, which I've been a fan of since the very first time I've seen it, which has been at least a decade. That image has been really stuck with me.
mm-hmm.
I've made a version of it, my own sort of sigil. When I'm nerd fighting, I have it on my shield when I go into battle. I've got it on my banner.
I've looked at that design because you've sent it, but I've also seen it on your social media. It reminds me of a mixture of the Lundstone and the wolves from the Scale Brooch, because you clearly used quite a lot of Mammon style in it.
Yeah,
It's more knotted up and folded in.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, it reminded me of the Scale. Scale? Well, I don't know how the fuck to pronounce that.
I never know.
Fucking outer Scots things. But yeah, the Lundstone is a really cool one. We will get Adam to add photos of it, as well as photos of your tattoo, and it's all done all of that shit, because it makes sense for the video. But yeah, the Lundstone, I particularly like that one, because one, I've gotten to tattoo it before. Two, it's really weird, because it's on that whole like Ulf Hethnar, wolf warrior, werewolf kind of thing, but it's wolves carrying swords and shield. It's not like humanoid werewolves with weapons. It's just two fucking wolves eating a god. It looks like eating a god mask, and they're armed with sword and shield, but they have paws. What the fuck? But yeah, it's a really, 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 really cool piece of artwork with very strange wolves, very strange details, and like the story behind it, which we of course don't fucking have, would have been fucking fascinating.
Should write one.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. You've got time for that, right?
Yeah, I'll just, this afternoon when I'm not doing anything else, I'll just sit down and write a fucking short story. Completely realistic.
Fantastic. And then the sort of re-rendering it in the Mammon style is fantastic. It's probably my favorite. I've been studying the styles for years, but for some reason Mammon is the one that seems to stick with me the most, and I think it's the sort of curves at the joints.
The contour shapes.
Yeah, I just love the way they look. And the head shapes get a little closer to feral, aggressive kind of looks.
I think we talked about that. Like,
Yeah.
I see the Mammon style as, because that's where the great beasts become a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like that's the point where the beasts as well stop looking fucking goofy and start having like a more feral, fierce expression. Which makes a huge fucking difference, because when you look at the Boro style, all the creatures just look happy, goofy, bunny-like, or like little mice or monkeys or whatever the fuck. The Yellen style, everything is just weird snakes.
It's all sinewy.
Yeah. And then you finally get along to the Mammon style, and things just go fierce and brutal and like slightly orcish. There's a lot of the wolf designs. They look like the Varg from Lord of the Rings, kind of like big hyena-like beasts. Yeah. And strange lions and shit like that, which is very, very lovely. I'm gonna just product placement here. Like, if you want to know more about the Nordic styles, dear listeners, go buy our new book, the Viking Art Tome, because it's all in there, all the nerdy knowledge about the Viking Age styles as well as the pre-Viking Age styles. It's practical shit to know. So yeah, go buy it. Yeah. So you've been here. What day is it today? It's Friday. You've been to. This is day 4.
This will be day 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you enjoyed it so far?
I have. Yeah. Even heavy lines over tender spots. It's 100% worth it, but it's been great. The studio's been great. Like, your whole team, awesome. It's I feel super comfortable here.
I'm glad you think so.
Yeah.
So my process is a little bit unusual compared to most tattoo artists. You seem to have taken it all in stride, but since we're on day 4 now, so to the uninitiated, when Matt and I work on people, we work 3 to 5 days in a row. Sometimes both of us in a day. Long days can be up to like 10, 12 hours of work and tattooing and artwork and all these things, drawing on the skin, then getting intimidated by the prospect of all the stabbing, of needling.
I think I steeled myself for it beforehand. I was ready to do whatever it took, because I knew the end product was going to be amazing. And I mean, I know we're not there yet, but it's already pretty amazing as far as I'm concerned. And I knew a little bit about the process beforehand. The having 2 different artists working at once, which I think is a pretty great way to maximize your workflow.
Yeah, it's a necessity. Across the waters and everything, like I've needed to be as efficient as fucking possible. So having Matt's amazing extra hands to do a fuckload of work is it really works. It pays off really well. trippy company too that he gives people. In a good way. I'm always too cruel to the man. It's all meant very friendly banter, like. Okay, so let's jump back into the nerdy shit. Why wolves? It's your logo, it's your thing.
Yeah.
You just really like wolves. We talked about Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff. What's with the fucking canines, mate?
For wolves, man, it's that transition from where is the transition from wolf to dog? Where's the transition from dangerous wild animal
Wolf to Chihuahua
to steadfast? I hope not Chihuahua. to steadfast sort of guardian.
Mm-hmm.
And it leads me down all these weird rabbit holes that make me sound like a crazy person. But did humans domesticate wolves, or did dogs domesticate humans? That kind of question I think is really interesting. And then examining the artwork and the stories and thinking like, is this a wolf? Is this a dog? How can we tell the difference? Is there a difference? Are they depicted the same way? And then sort of the dichotomy of when a wolf is depicted, is it really a wolf or is it an outlaw? Right, the whole Vargar.
Is it a pseudonym for something else?
Yeah, it's all really, really fascinating to me. And yeah, just going on wolves themselves and the werewolf lore, it's something I've been really interested in since I was a child, growing up in a really, really rural area, and just finding books in the library, of all places, on werewolf stories and just being really enamored with them.
So, do you have a favorite version of werewolves? I was talking to a different client the other day about werewolves and shapeshifters. It's a thing in every fucking culture around the world. You have shape-changing foxes in Japanese culture. You have lots of different werebeasts in African cultures. You've got all over Europe. You've got werewolves in different sizes and shapes. Do you have a favorite? What's your favorite lycanthropy?
Right, yeah. I mean, it's werewolf. It's wolves. That's my favorite lycanthropy. Wow, that's a great question. Media-wise, I like the more modern look, right? The bipedal man-wolf, right? Or like the images of the berserkers with their swords and their big beast heads. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
those are pretty great. Story-wise, I enjoy some of the French stuff. Stories of like the Beast of Gévaudan. That's fantastic. And then 14th century Bisclavaret from the Les of Marie de France. Really cool stuff. But if it's got a werewolf in it, I'll probably read it. I'll probably.
Yeah, I had a vague recollection of that.
Yeah, even those are great.
Okay, you mentioned the Beast of Gévaudan, or however the fuck it's pronounced. To those of you out there who has not watched it, a French movie named in English Brotherhood of the Wolf. Fucking watch it, amazing movie. Really fucking brilliant work, to be honest. And great folklore. So cinematic beast, you mentioned like your favorite shape was the whole bipedal one. I have this massive weakness for Professor Lupin as a werewolf in Harry Potter because he's not a pretty werewolf.
Right.
I fucking loved how they depicted him because he's just lanky and strange. It's not like, I mean, we've both played Werewolf the Apocalypse where werewolves look epic. They're like bodybuilder werewolves.
Built for war.
Yeah, like super fucking cool. And the cinematographic Harry Potter one is just weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's clearly a fucking curse that he suffers. And I really, really like that. Although at the same time in the same universe you have Fenrir Greyback who looks like he's going to turn into the kind of werewolf from the Werewolf Apocalypse universe. I don't know if that's the case because we never get to see it, but
I think so.
But yeah, I don't know. I've always loved like movie werewolves, the whole American Werewolf in London, the fact that they filmed the whole fucking transformation backwards to make it look more freakish and all that. It's just fucking cool. So, that's just jumping wildly back and forth between subjects, but I'm still curious about certain things. The nerdery thing. When did you fall down the deep pit hole of playing RPGs and all of that? What was your first encounter of the third degree of nerdy D&D and shit like that?
Sure, I'd been reading comic books since about age 6, and I had ordered in the back of a comic book a catalog from a hobby shop that listed a lot of role-playing games. And this was, I was 16, and I had just poured through it, not really knowing what to expect. I knew what Dungeons and Dragons was, but I'd never played. I'd even read some of the novels, like those Dragonlance novels.
Oh yeah.
That everyone's read, right?
Of course we have.
Yeah, and so I remember looking through that and looking at all the different names for the games, and of course the one that stuck with me was. And there was a summer, and in the States, in the summer, we around 16 or 17, we do our driver's training classes. So we learned to drive, and I went to a driver's training class, and because I was in a small rural area, it was for all the students in all the schools that were, 3 or 4 schools away. And there was a kid there from another school, and he had a copy of Werewolf the Apocalypse with him.
Okay.
So we started chatting, and then eventually we just started meeting up and playing. And that was my first experience with role-playing games. I know a lot of people start with something like Dungeons and Dragons, but mine was Werewolf the Apocalypse. And that all led me here.
Nice. I mean, I personally started, Hero Quest was like the first touch
Hero
of the
Quest
whole
for
fantasy
you, right?
world. And then we got our hands on Swedish Dragons and Demons, which is today still exists in the hands of Riot Minds in Sweden. It's a fucking amazing game, very, very beautifully illustrated by Bonner and Alvaro Tapia. Fucking beautiful work that they spit out.
Gorgeous work.
And it's a real cool world. If you're into Nordic mythology, which I assume you are since you're watching this shit, it's very heavy on the Nordic side of things, mixed with like sort of Lord of the Ringsy Rohan mindset and style, and it's beautiful. So yeah, go look at Riot Minds, Dragons and Demons, or whatever the fuck it's called in English, and enjoy. But yeah, I went from Dragons and Demons, and then we got our first copy of Dungeons and Dragons, the red box set, that has the Elmore red dragon on the fucking cover, amazing illustration. And then from there, what the fuck did we play? Oh, we got a copy of Shadowrun.
Oh, okay.
We pitched our money together. We were kids back then. I started playing when I was, 12. So we pitched our money together to get something new, and the 4 of us who were playing voted on what to be playing, and we ended up settling for Shadowrun.
Wow.
Which was a very strange second step. I mean, you started with Werewolf, which is a fucking dark beginning, but cool.
Did you see they re-released the RuneQuest?
No.
Dragonbane.
Oh, that's
just a year ago, maybe?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so you can pick up a new version of it.
That's cool.
Complete with duck people.
There were duck people in...
yeah, I know.
Yeah. I think that idea came up, I think it was inspired by how Howard the Duck, one of my friends always, whenever we played Dragons and Demons, he insisted on playing a duck samurai.
Interesting.
Because why not? Why wouldn't you be a duck samurai when you have the option of being a duck samurai? You know?
Is the duck a more heroic seeming animal in Denmark?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not at all.
Strangely
enough, there's a massive in like Viking Age and Iron Age. There's a big cult thing about swimming birds, like ducks and swans and geese and shit like that. They're depicted fucking everywhere on like shit. It very quickly makes sense. Why is this a sacred fucking animal?
Sure.
But when you just see 100 fucking artifacts with weird comic like ducks from the Iron Age, why? What happened? How many drugs did you fucking do? And the answer would of course be all the drugs, because if drugs were readily available, I'm sure the Norsemen would have indulged and imbibed as much as they fucking could. But no, in modern perspective, ducks are not perceived as particularly heroic. Maybe we're afflicted by the fucking Darkwing Duck and shit like that. I mean, they grow up with that weird shit.
Yeah, a friend of mine had a theory that had to do with the Scrooge McDuck stories, and how sort of popular they were in Europe at the time.
They were very, very popular. I mean, we've done badgers, we've done raccoons.
Ducks would be pretty great. You have a
Duck
wealth of
sleep
images.
wouldn't be half bad. Have you ever seen that? There's like a little drawing that proves that all ducks are wearing dog masks.
No.
Google it.
I'll have to check that out.
It's very weird, but from a certain angle, it looks like they're wearing like a cardboard dog mask. So what's next? I mean, you've got your old Thor's hammer, you have a giant raven on your back, you now have a massive fucking wolf. Are you coming back for more?
I'm hoping to, yes. I would love to. I'd like to finish filling out my right arm. Yeah. Probably with a similar theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I've got both legs, so...
Which is lucky.
Which is lucky. Very lucky. So we can decorate those as well. Same thing, or mix in some god masks.
Oh, endless fucking options, really.
Yeah.
So.
I think that makes for good vertical space too, for masks and things.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do massive things on the thighs. It's always good.
What's that feel like?
Thighs?
Yeah.
I mean, my thighs have been tattooed by the very brutal but efficient Gard Wiesbeck, who he did the job in no time, so I hardly got to feel it. And then the inner thighs is done by the brilliant Delphine Neusdorf, and she is the most pain-free tattooist ever. So
wow.
We just chatted through it. We actually filmed an episode of Unscripted while she was tattooing me. I kind of doze off whenever she's tattooing me. She's just insanely gentle. Wow. So yeah, I think my experience with thigh tattoos has been very positive, and I generally, when I tattoo that area on people, I don't really get much like, oh my god, this is the most painful shit ever complaints. There's many other spaces that people appreciate much less. So yeah, I don't think, but at the same time, on the legs there are some, I mean, the Achilles heel is a fun fucking spot to get tattooed.
Oof.
And I was not, well, my mate Sam Rivers tattooed my ankle. I wasn't very adult that day. So a lot of whinging. Basically felt like he was whipping me with nettles. Fucking shit experience. Sorry, Sam. He's not particularly painful as a tattoo artist or anything, but the experience was absolutely no fun. So I'd like to never do that again. Luckily, I'm out of ankles. So. Very important.
Barring a miracle.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure that's a miracle. Look, you got an extra ankle.
Second ankle. Third ankle.
So the logical thing to ask is, do you have any, because you've followed me for so fucking long, do you have any questions for me? Is there something that you wanted to know about the shit that I do to people, or anything?
What, I suppose, what initially brought you to tattooing?
Oh, bankruptcy.
Okay.
I'm not sure I've ever told this story on camera, but have I?
I'm sure you have.
Maybe I might have touched upon it.
I don't know.
Fuck it, let's go. So I lived with the mighty Henrik Togol on a farm in Sweden after going bankrupt, and it was 2008. The whole fucking recession thing had happened. My life had been turned upside down and turned to shit, and everything was just everything was stupid, very very stupid for me. And I was in a very very bad space. And it took me a good year to dig myself out of that space. But when I got out of it, I was like, all right, depression's done. Economy still sucks. I should figure out a way to make some money or get some money back. So I called up an old friend who owed me a substantial amount of money for me back then, and asked if he could maybe pay me back the money that he owed. And he was like, no, sorry, don't have your money. Can't work anymore because he'd smashed up his back. So no, he was just dirt broke. That was not really the answer I had hoped for. But then he commented being like, well, you know what? I mean, I used to tattoo and you're very creative. You know how to draw and shit like that. Why don't you just come over and I'll teach you to tattoo? And then you can just make money. And I was like, that is a terrible idea. Let's never do that. Thank you for the offer, but fuck off. And I hung up. And then I waited for a few days, started chewing on the idea because I really needed to make some money. Because I wanted to pay back like friends and family that had bailed me out of shit and all that. So eventually I just bit the bullet and was like, alright, fuck it. Called him back up and said, okay, does the offer still stand? Yeah. Okay, well. So I drove to Denmark and had a very insane apprenticeship with him. It was mainly focused on hygiene standards and how to set up your tattoo machine. And how not to like tattoo too deeply or anything like that. And then he kicked me off into the world and told me to go tattoo my friends. Luckily I had a lot of friends who were very, very interested in getting tattooed. One of the first Nordic tattoos I did was actually a dog. Speaking of. And I was terrible. Like, really shitty tattoos to begin with, as it is. But luckily, I'm also a very dedicated, nerdy person. So I just threw myself into it 100%. Read everything online I could about dermatology and all of these things. Just fucking dug in. And within, I don't know, 6-8 months, I started being quite okay at what I was doing. I started doing some hand poking, was doing a lot of Nordic tattoos. And after a year, I opened up a small studio, actually quite a large studio on the edge of central Copenhagen with a mate back then, which was where Meat Shop started. And then I started having my first international clients after a year and a half, which is very daunting when you actually don't know what you're doing. And yeah, just kept shouldering on. I will never ever recommend anyone to have a career in this way. It's been the most stressy fucking shit ever. Like, find someone that can teach you properly, have an apprenticeship, learn at a decent leisurely pace, and not the shit that I put myself through. Bad idea. Eventually I started getting tattooed by Gerhard Wiesbeck because I'd met him at a tattoo convention, and Gerhard was incredibly kind to me. He took his time to teach me everything while he was doing it. So setup, process, all these things. He went through everything with me. If I had any questions, they were answered. It was phenomenal. It really changed how I worked, how I perceived tattooing, how I processed tattooing. All of it was just altered by having him mentoring me a little bit. And I mean, he has sent me many messages telling me, you should try this machine, you should try this ink, you should rethink this, or shit like that. And whenever I've gotten tattooed by him, I learned something new and amazing. So his tutelage has been like a late apprenticeship for me, kind of, which I really, really appreciate. And you can always learn. There's an amazing documentary, Jiro Dreams of Sushi, about this Japanese sushi restaurant owner who has a 3 Michelin starred sushi restaurant. And in the whole thing, he talks about like you can always become a little bit better. You can change something and be 0.5% better, 1% better. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a lot. You can always be better. You can do things a little bit better. And as long as you can improve, you should improve. And I really took that to heart and stuck with the whole idea that I can always be better. I can always improve my designs, my method. Better. So I stick to that. And knowing people like Gerhard, who will always teach you something new and weird, is really helpful with the whole improve yourself a little bit. And it's everything within this. It's everything within creativity, the way I see it. You can always do better. Many people I've met in my life has gone like, oh, you're so lucky that you're creative. Like, no. As a species, we're quite creative. I'm going to draw you an arm because that part's done.
Oh, okay.
As a species, we are very, very I just stuck to it and dedicated myself to it. Anyone can. And I've met people who were not creative, they didn't feel creative, but they went at it wholeheartedly, worked really hard on their own creativity, on their own creative process, and have built themselves a creative career from it, which is fucking amazing. All you need to do is be dedicated. And it doesn't really have, like, dedication doesn't have shit to do with creativity as such, except that it's to me, a really, really important ingredient. Because with dedication, you can just, you can make it as far as you need to go, really. So that's always, like, the first thing I recommend people is examine your own dedication to what you do, and then the next thing is examine what you work with. Like, your choice of materials is super important. If you're tattooing with a shitty tattoo machine, that's an easy way of improving. If you're tattooing with the wrong needles, easy way of improving. If you're drawing with the wrong pen and pencil and paper, easy way of improving. Because your choice of paper fucking matters. So that's usually like the second recommendation I give people. And then there's just so many little aspects. I mean, the stuff that you do, choice of silicone, choice of foam, quality of glue that you're working with, there's just so much shit. I imagine it's even the same in your job, doing flooring. Like, if you've got the right tools, you're faster, you're better, you leave a better result behind. Mm-hmm. That was a very long-winded answer.
That's great.
I hope it
It absolutely, it was good.
Would you rather tattoo people who only people who think they're Vikings, like really think they're Vikings, or give up tattooing?
Give up tattooing. In a fucking heartbeat. But it's because it's really important to me to only tattoo people who are not worthy, but like deserving somehow of my time and attention. And I think anyone who actually thinks that they're fucking Vikings, they would not be deserving of my dedication. So yeah, I'd rather retire. I intend to retire from tattooing eventually anyway, so that would be a good fucking excuse.
You'd rather be fluent, this for both of you, fluent in all of the language, or speak to animals, be able to speak to animals?
That's a good question.
I'd speak to animals, but it would
Two
definitely...
animals?
Like, you could go up to Ramona and be like, what's up, mate? And she'd have a conversation with you.
I'm not sure I want to hear what's going on in Ramona's head. She's a very weird cat.
Would also probably break my mind, though.
I think I would take the animal one, but I have the advantage of having quite a few languages already available to me, so it's cheating, but not all the languages though. Yeah, I would. Do I have to choose the animals? Because elephant would definitely be one of them.
No, like
Maybe whale. That would be cool. Yeah, I would go for speaking whale.
Would you rather know how you're going to die or when you're going to die?
That's dark.
Oh, yeah, but it's a mind, like you gotta think, you know.
Okay, but if you choose how, then you've got a fair chance of figuring out when. No?
Yeah,
No.
I don't know.
Not necessarily.
I'm asking you the question.
I'll take how over when.
Yeah, I think I would go for how as well, because I'd be annoyed if I knew when I was dying.
Yeah.
Really stressy.
Right. Plus, like what Herger the Joyous says in 13th Warrior, right? Skein of your fate's already been cast.
Yeah.
You won't live a day longer than you're supposed to.
Would you rather never enjoy music again or never enjoy food again?
That's the worst question ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, well, yeah, get your minds rolling.
Food. Food as fuel. Being able to look at food as fuel would probably actually help me a lot.
I'm with you on that. I would have an easier life if I didn't enjoy food
Because
as
I
much.
love eating.
Yeah, me too. It's a big problem. It's a bit sad because I really like food, but yeah, I would sacrifice the food.
Would you rather be thirsty no matter how much you drink or tired no matter how much you sleep?
I'm already the second one, so I'm gonna go with the second one. That's an easy
I'll take
one.
thirsty.
All right, so yeah, that was another episode of Unscripted, which is fun. Don't forget to follow and all of those things that you need to do for all this social media nonsense. And comment below if you enjoyed it, if there's something you want to know, any questions you want answered, and shit like that, go for it. And we will maybe remember the questions for next time. Don't forget, new book out, Northern Blacknut Shop, as well as all of our cool merch and all these things. And that's it, I think. Fuck off.